You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
So, I don't know why this has been the case the last couple of weeks, but there has just not been a lot of news that's come out that's been remotely interesting. Not since we had the James Gunn news has there been any news, even remotely interesting, happen on a Monday. And I think it's because these people know I'm counting on them to give me something to talk about on my show, so they're postponing till Tuesday. I think that's what it is. This is Hot Takes, and I'm producer Kyle, and this is just going to get more unhinged as the night goes on. So let's get started. What's up, everybody? Welcome into Hot Takes. I am producer Kyle. And tonight's going to be a little bit different because I actually have a topic to talk about. And that topic to talk about is basically all Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania. But I'm not actually going to talk about the movie. Well, really, I'm going to kind of talk about the movie, but I'm not going to talk about the movie the same way that Dan's going to talk about the movie tomorrow, or that other shows have talked about the movie. I'm going to talk about how I think we've been grading movies wrong, myself included, and how I need to go back and rewatch all of the Marvel Cinematic stuff with a new sort of rule book. And then I'm going to talk about Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania and how things break down for me in that regard. Before we get into it, though, I want to remind you of a couple of important experience things that are happening. First one, off the top. We have a new show starting Wednesday at 8. Wednesday at 8. It's called 3T, or Talk and Treats Trivia. Names are hard, and I think 3T is a good one. But 3T is Chuck Pino and his wife Wendy. It's part interview, part trivia game show. Tune in Wednesday at 8 for that. So I went on Saturday night to see Ant-Man and Wasp. And we get done with the movie and we're driving home. And I'm talking to my friend and I'm going, I think we've been grading movies wrong. And I've been thinking about this now for a couple of days. Because originally my review of Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania was a 2 out of 5. Little less than half. But I got to thinking about it and I realized that there's actually 3 different categories that I'm conflating into one here. When I watch a movie, I think about my overall enjoyment of the movie. So did I enjoy the movie? Did I enjoy my experience going to the movies? Did I enjoy the popcorn? The whole, was it worth it to leave my house, to leave the comfort of my easy chair, to go to a movie theater to sit and watch a movie? That's one thing. The second thing is the comic book accuracy of the comic book movie, which is another category that I'm measuring and trying to come up with a number for. And finally, the third category is this movie good if it wasn't a superhero movie? would I enjoy this movie if it wasn't a superhero film? And so what I realized is that I have to rate each of those and that I should be more transparent about how a movie rates in each of them. So I got to thinking about the popular movie sites and the popular ratings. And it seems to me that for years, the idea has been simple is better, right? Thumbs up, thumbs down, 2 thumbs way up, 2 thumbs down, some kind of, something simple, or a 5-point scale for the movie, or a 10-point scale, or 5 stars, or buckets of popcorn, or whatever. And I realized that in trying to simplify it, it makes things more complicated for people to know what you think. Because you're not giving your criteria as to what adds up to whatever your rating is. So having more data, I think, is helpful. So I now am rating every movie on a 15-point scale. 5 points for how much I enjoyed the movie experience. Seeing a movie on the big screen, eating the popcorn, sitting in the chair, being around other people. All of that, the movie-going experience. Because you know as well as I do that if the movie's no good, the movie-going experience isn't going to be either. Right? You're going to wind up either sitting in an empty theater by yourself opening weekend of a movie that's supposed to be popular, or you're going to wind up sitting in a movie theater by yourself with a bunch of bored people, or something like that that's going to, you're going to have your movie-going experience come down. The comic book accuracy of the movie is a 5-point scale, which again, and this is something that not everybody has to take into account, but I do. How accurate is the movie to the comic books that are its source material? And then the third thing is, if we stripped all the superhero stuff out and it was just an action movie or just a sci-fi movie or just a what have you, would it still be a good movie? Jay, you're here. Chime in for me, buddy. Are those 3 categories? Do you think those are 3 adequate categories for rating a movie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything I'm missing?
No, I mean, for me, especially going to a movie theater, it's always the experience. That I have a good experience in the movie. Uh, you know,
But you know as well as I do, if you go see something that sucks,
yeah,
that experience is less good.
yeah, that's true.
So
That's true.
here's how Ant-Man and the Wasp shook down, and we'll get more into this in a little bit. But for the overall movie going experience, 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. The movie theater wasn't too crowded. This particular movie theater we went to was a Phoenix Theaters. So they have lazy boy recliners with heated seats in the theater. We saw it on their encore screen, which they advertise as a screen so big we had to take the roof off. Which it's not IMAX. It's similar to what the XD screen would be at a Cinemark theater. Or I know AMC has a similar. It's their oversized screen. Saw it in that. So the popcorn was good. The company was good. There weren't a lot of people talking in the theater. There was a guy who, during the credits, like he must have been checking TikTok. But then when the mid-credit scene and the post-credit scene came on, he stopped. So it was kind of whatever. But like that was the only annoying part about going to the movies. So 5 out of 5 stars. Good time. Really did enjoy my time at the movies. So 5 out of 5. Comic book accuracy. 2 out of 5. I thought the Kang stuff was good. I thought the MODOK stuff was good. Spoilers if you don't know, MODOK's could be in this movie. I don't know where you've been. But I thought those things were good. I thought the rest was a little weak. I don't think they did a great job of representing Scott or Hope or Janet, or Hank or any of them. So 2 out of 5. And then overall movie experience, overall cinematic storytelling experience, 2 out of 5, to bring you to a grand total of 9 out of 15. I've been told since I saw the movie that maybe the way to see it was in 3D. Might have helped a little. So I'm willing to admit that perhaps I didn't see the movie the way I was supposed to see it, and that seeing it that way will improve its score. Jay, I know you and Jenna went to see it. What did you guys see it in regular dimensions or multiple dimensions?
No, her eyes can't really handle 3D.
So I didn't see it in 3D. It gave me a headache.
Yeah, so we didn't see it in 3D. I'm going to be honest without being spoiler or anything about it, but I'm kind of, we both are kind of on the same in the same boat with you. There was a time where I was like, oh yeah, I forgot Hope and Scott are an item. I completely forgot that they were together until near like the end of the movie. I was like, oh, that's right. And man, don't get me started on MODOK.
Well, I just mean okay, so if you had to give, based on my 3 categories, your overall experience at the movies, 1 to 5.
Her and I are going to differ on that, so that's something you should ask her too sometime. Because mine was a 4. Her was, she had free passes, but they weren't accepting free passes. But we had already driven out to 45 minutes away. So I was like, well, we're already here. I'll just buy the tickets. So
you that your movie lost a point because they weren't accepting free vouchers.
Yep.
Love it. See, this is the kind of thing you gotta nitpick everything if you're going to nitpick anything.
Yeah.
Okay. So, comic book accuracy, is that something you're going to measure?
See, for me, when it comes to Marvel, I'm a little more lax because Marvel changes a lot of stuff. I mean, we skipped right over Hank Pym to go to Scott, and Hank, to me, where they didn't have to use that certain story that everybody talks about, but it's like, he created Ultron, things like that. So I give that about a 3. Just because, like I said, it's inaccurate, but it's Marvel, and that's kind of how they do their stuff most of the time.
But again, you can't forgive some things and not forgive others.
That's true. I think I've just been conditioned by Marvel to do that.
I understand. But see, that's why having more data about how we're grading the movies matters, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, Marvel has conditioned us to believe that we need to put comic book accuracy aside, but we can't because it's either comic book accurate or not.
No.
So that's what the 3rd rating is, right? If you took all the comic book stuff out, would you have enjoyed it as an action movie? Do you think the cinematic storytelling was good? If that was just a sci-fi movie,
it would have been a wait till it came on a streaming service, to be honest with you.
But based on that, 1 to 5, what would you give it? Again, what I'm saying is everybody sees movies, and we'll talk about this when we come back from our break. We're about to take a break. But everybody sees movies for different reasons. Right? I love going to the theater. When I'm having a bad week, going to the movie theater and getting a big old tub of popcorn and a pop and putting my phone on airplane mode and sitting in the corner in the back and just watching a movie is sometimes the only piece I get that doesn't also involve bodily functions.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to go to a movie for a different reason.
Right.
Just because you would have waited for it to come on a streaming service, you still can judge the cinematic storytelling. So if you took out the Ant-Man and the Wasp part, you took out the Marvel part, if it was just a story of this family and this is how they function,
it probably would have been a 2 then.
So you got a 2, you got a 4, a 3, and a 2. So you would, or a 4, a 3, and a 2. So you're going to wind up at a 9 as well.
Yeah.
9 out of 15, which, let's be honest, is it just over 50%? Yeah. Is it, is it really a passing grade? Well, that really depends on how you rate things.
Yeah.
Right? But a 9 out of 15 is I think a fair number for this movie.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a break and we're going to come back. We're going to talk about why do people go to movies? Why do people... I'm obsessed with why people consume the media they consume. And so we're going to talk about why do people go to movies? Why do people wait for certain movies to come to streaming services? Why do people interact with film and television the way they interact with film and television? Before we do that, before we head to break, though, I want to remind you guys of something happening here on The Experience. We are like a whisper away from 1,500 subscribers here on The Experience. We've been pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing to get to 1,500 subscribers here on The Experience, and we're right there. So here's the deal. When we get to 1,500 subs, we have 15 slabs that will be going out to some of our shows to be given away to you. Now I hear you saying, but Kyle, I'm watching on Facebook. Doesn't matter. If you're in a show, you can win. But the giveaways get triggered when we get to 1,500. We're very close. So if you're here, even if you're on Facebook or you're over on Twitch, head over to YouTube, hit subscribe, click the bell. All right. If you're on Facebook or Twitch, make sure you hit follow, hit subscribe, click the bell, get the notifications. But it would really help if you could head over to YouTube and do it as well. That would be hugely helpful. All right. We're going to take our break. We'll be right back. This is a hot take. I've been producer Kyle. You know how when you go to Comic-Con, after Comic-Con, you go to the hotel bar, and there's a whole bunch of people playing music and dancing, and you've got Pikachu and Lara Croft Tomb Raider doing the cha-cha slide just down from Deadpool and Batman and Wonder Woman? That's every Saturday night over on the Experience Twitch channel. Join Taji Beats for the EXP Dance Party, exclusively on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_EXP.
Comic Collectibles is a pretty straightforward show. You got Rex here, he sells the comics, and you got Rockin' Robbie, he knows about the comics. And finally, John, well, no one really knows what John does. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but he just keeps showing up. Come to think of it, I don't even really know how he gets in here. Anyway, awesome comics, rare books, rarer signatures, slabbed books, and amazing cover sketches by Ken Hazer and others. Simple formula, you want the comics, you buy the comics. To sum up, Rex sells the comics, Robbie knows the comics, and John, who might possibly be a ghost. I mean, seriously, has anyone ever seen him show up or leave? Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, Mondays from 6 to 8 Eastern on The Experience. Comic Culture and Sales. To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey. And behind every page, there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
Welcome back. I don't know why I said it like that. That was weird. I won't do that again. Jay, remind me never to do that again.
Gotcha.
That was awkward. This is Hot Takes. I'm producer Kyle. Welcome back in. As you may notice, we're not taking calls tonight. That is because we are having a technical difficulty that will be corrected in a matter of days. Found out just before the show that my headphones are shot. And if my headphones are shot, I can't hear you when you call. I'm sorry. Okay. So we were talking in the first segment. I kind of laid out my new grading scale for movies, the 15-point scale, and giving the data, right? Talking about why I give the movies the rating I'm giving them in each category. But there are intrinsic things that come with going to the movies, going and consuming anything, theater, movies, stand-up comedy, a concert. When you go out and you interact with art of any kind, there are intrinsic values in it that you have to acknowledge. I've said for years, and this is true, I 100% stand by this statement. I will go and see every superhero movie that comes out, even if I know I won't like it. Because I grew up as a young man in an era where that wasn't a thing. I would rather have a bad superhero movie than no superhero movies at all. Does that make sense to everybody? I would rather have a bad superhero movie than no superhero movies at all. The same way I would rather have Anakin Skywalker and Jar Jar Binks than no Star Wars at all. Now, I'm not saying I would much rather have Anakin Skywalker and Jar Jar Binks, but I would certainly rather have them than not have any Star Wars. So that's a thing. But there's something inherent to when you go to do these things. Jay mentioned earlier that if Ant-Man and Wasp wasn't an MCU movie, it would have been a wait to streaming movie. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take a guess as to several of the reasons why, and Jay at some point can chime in and tell me where I'm wrong. But Jay works a lot of hours here on the experience, and at some point has to flip his schedule over to work all night on the weekends at his other job. So Jay getting out of bed to go to the movies on a weekend is hard. So if you wait till streaming, you can watch it at your convenience rather than having to find time to go to movies. 2, Jay and Jenna both are very busy people. They have a lot of stuff happening. So finding time to go and sit for 2.5 hours, also not easy. And 3, movies are expensive. I went to a dead mall where the movie theater tickets are cheapest of anywhere around here. And it still cost me and my friend $60. Movies are expensive. So you have to account for the intrinsic values of these things. So what is the value of going to see a movie in theater? Well, you get the sound, you get the visuals, you get all of these things. But is that worth it to you? Or would you rather sit on the comfort of your own couch, and not have to wear shoes while you watch it? Or, depending on the kind of household you have, not have to wear pants while you watch the movie? Which one's worth more to you? I love to go to the movies because when I go to the movies, I can put my phone in airplane mode. Granted, I can put my phone in airplane mode right now and probably should have since I'm on the air, but I didn't, and it's over there. Anyway, but sometimes it's the only peace and quiet you get. Well, is that worth it? Or is the ability to, what, I should stop this movie, go do this work thing, come back, or I should stop this movie, go do this family thing, and come back to it? Is that stop and start availability something that's worth more to you? Is the food at the movie theater something that's worth more to you than the food at home? Everybody has their kind of what makes you want to go see a movie in a theater sort of criteria. So when we talk about that first number, right, the overall cinematic experience, did I enjoy going to the movies? Did I enjoy this thing? Well, Jay mentioned he took a whole point off of the movie because the movie theater wasn't taking coupons. Okay, that's fair. That's something that detracts from your overall cinematic experience, your overall movie-going experience. So that's actually a point in favor of waiting for a streaming service. I think that first kind of category, your overall movie-going experience, is the category that should usually score highest of the three. Because by the time you make the decision to go to the theater, you've already made a decision that the things that the theater offer you are the things that are of benefit to you. There's this science in sales called the art of consumer. What is it? And Jay, you may not remember. We've talked about it. The art of consumer choice, essentially. And the idea is that if you can put out the intangibles that you're offering as a service or as a product or whatever, these are my intangibles. These are the reasons you want to use me. And those intangibles outweigh the reasons not to use you. That's how you get someone to make a purchase. It's how you get someone to intend to spend money with you. So what Disney has to do, what Disney is working on, what DC is working on, what all these companies are working on, is that art of viewer intent, the art of purchase intent. How do I get you? What intangibles can I give you in theater that will make you spend money there? So for me, art of influencing consumer choice, yeah, but it's really the art of purchase intent mixed with the art of viewer influence. So again, on the experience, if you're watching this show, and I don't know if anybody is tonight, which is fine. If you're watching this show and not watching American Idol or The Voice or America's Got Talent, whatever is on, you've made a choice because of some intangible we offer. Either because you find what we're doing interesting, or because you want to make fun of me, or because you're looking for news, or because you'd rather watch YouTube than cable, whatever. But you've made that decision. So when you go to the movies, you're also making that decision. So when you go to rate that 5 points on that scale, that's a huge part of it. You've already been manipulated. You've already been influenced to go to the movies. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not all manipulation or influence is bad. Just throwing it out there. Right? It's how most consumer choices are made, is through influence like this. So just know that. But you've already made the decision to go to the movies, so your movie going experience should be high. So now we talk about comic book accuracy, and not everybody is going to care about comic book accuracy. Not everybody is going to care about, did they do a good job at making Hope Van Dyne look correct, behave correctly. Not everybody's going to care about, did they do a good job of representing Hank Pym. Not everybody's going to care about, is it the right Batman, or is it the right Flash, or is it the right whatever. Some people are just going to look at that first category and go, I had fun at the movies. That makes it a good movie. That's why Dan and I fight so much. Dan's one of those, that it was a good movie. I enjoyed my time at the movies. So it was a good movie. I tell you, I can enjoy my time at the movies and see a movie that really sucks. I just can. Because again, it's an opportunity to turn my brain off. The female Ghostbusters movie. How many people out there like the female Ghostbusters movie? I'll give you a hint. It's one. It's me. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. I loved the female Ghostbusters movie because it was an opportunity for me to go to the movie theater, put my phone on airplane mode, sit there for 2 hours, and never once have a thought. If I could have been stoned out of my gourd seeing that movie, it would have only made that movie that much better. The advantage to that movie was it was a afternoon that required nothing of me. So we talk about the second category, the second 5 points, as comic book accuracy on these movies. And while they're not built to necessarily be comic book accurate, they can have accurate parts. So for instance, with the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, there were incredibly accurate things from all of the characters, especially Kang and especially MODOK. Even if they got the acronym wrong. Anyway, there were incredibly accurate parts for both of those characters. There weren't necessarily accurate parts for Hope and Hank and Janet and Scott. So that's going to rank a lot lower if it's even something you consider. Again, this is part of this category. This is part of this scoring that for me it matters. For you it may not. The way my brain works is that I can't unknow what I already know. So if I already know the origin of Kang, if I already know about Kang existing in the quantum realm, or if I already know about Kang's interactions with Hank Pym, and you then don't give me those interactions, or you don't tell me those stories, even though you're setting them like it's those stories, that to me is a huge negative. I can't avoid it. Even though Marvel wants me to, I can't. That's not how my brain works. Excuse me. So that second category is going to be a tough category to get a high score in, unless you do something A, like Loki, that's just out of the ballpark different, or B, wildly comic book accurate. Right? Unless you do a movie that's so accurate to the comic book, people are going, oh my gosh, this was a shot-for-shot adaptation of this thing. I don't know how you're going to get a high score in that. So that's why the third category becomes necessary. the third 5 points in the movie rating system. If you take all of that stuff out, you take all of the comic book stuff out, all of the knowledge out of the movie, and you just rate it as a sci-fi, science fiction, action movie, what's your score? Backwoods Collector, what's up, buddy? We're kind of talking about how movies, I think, have been graded wrong. And in the first segment, in the earlier segment, we talked about how for so long the idea of movie ratings has been simplicity, right? A thumbs up, thumbs down. How many stars out of 5? How many points out of 10? And I think what really is needed is some transparency in how the scoring has happened and more data points. So I'm up to 3 different categories, 5 points of data. First category is how much fun did I have at the movies? How good was my movie going experience? Second category is how comic book accurate was the movie. Third category, which we're talking about now, is if we take all the comic book stuff out, we take everything we know, we take all of the IP that we're familiar with out, and just look at it as an action movie, a sci-fi movie, a whatever kind of movie it is, how would that score on a 5-point scale? And so if you take out the fact that Ant-Man and Wasp are Marvel characters, and they're just either people, they're cops, they're space aliens, they're whatever, and their suits allow them to do what their suits allow them to do, how would this movie stack up as an action movie? And I think it stacks up pretty well as a sci-fi action movie, but I think the script was a little bit lacking. There's something, and I'd talk about this more maybe tomorrow with Dan or another time, but I don't think there was a balance in the joke writing. I don't think there was a balance in the humor. I don't think parts of the script were as well thought out as they could have been. I don't think the action was all that interesting. I think it's probably hard for actors like Michael Douglas to act to a green screen. I think it's probably easy for David Dastmalchian, but it's hard for Michael Douglas. And so I don't think the acting was particularly strong from some of these characters. Spoilers, Bill Murray is in the movie. I don't think his performance was particularly good. I just think it was there. So, because there's some new people joining us, Backwoods and some others, I want to remind you how we scored. So, overall experience at the movie theater, 5 out of 5. Great time at the movies. Comic book accuracy, 2 out of 5. And your overall, if it was cinematic storytelling category, which is where we strip everything out, which what we've just been talking about, another 2 out of 5, bringing us to a 9 out of 15 for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Jay, is what I'm saying so far making sense to you, having seen the movie?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would throw at me as a challenge to anything that I've said thus far?
No, I mean, you pretty much, those are three good categories to have. I don't know what else you could what else you could say other than continuity with the other movies or something like that.
Well, but if it's a first timer, right? Like if this had been the first Ant-Man and Wasp movie, you have continuity, so you can't hold this movie against the other movies,
right?
Unless you consider that in your cinematic storytelling, right? Like, I'll give you a for instance of how a movie of the case where this is a thing. The Jason Bourne movies.
Oh wow!
Here we go. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
The first 2 looked one way, and then by the third movie, they had a different director who kind of had a different idea of how some things should go, and so you did actually have a continuity problem in terms of the way the story went.
Mm.
So you would have to consider that in cinematic storytelling, because the way they told the story in the first 2 movies changes in the third movie. So that would be part of that. That's where you'd have to work that in, right? Is how is the storytelling done?
Right.
So again, I am yeah, that's what I mean. Backwoods Collector. It has nothing to do with the actual movie. Like I was saying that we went to see Ant-Man and Wasp on Saturday. We went to the Phoenix Theaters in Monroe, Michigan, which is in a dead mall. Which movie theater tickets are cheaper there than they are at the theaters here in Toledo. Okay. That theater has Lazy Boy recliners with heated seats. If you buy a jumbo popcorn, you get 2 free refills. Like my overall going to the movies experience is what I'm talking about, right? If the movie sucks, it's going to affect your overall going to the movies experience. But because I'm talking about the seats, the people you go with, the experience of being in the movie, enjoying yourself in the movie. Because again, we were talking, you can enjoy yourself seeing a bad movie, or you cannot enjoy seeing a bad movie. You have to categorize that. When I saw the first Black Panther movie, this is a great example. If I had been scoring this when I saw the first Black Panther movie, it would have scored drastically different than it actually my original scoring of the Black Panther movie. Because when I went to the movies, we went and it was a sold out viewing. There wasn't an empty seat in the house. I had just had surgery on my foot, so I had to sit in a handicapped seat. Next to me was this open space for a wheelchair. Except there wasn't no wheelchair there. There was a stroller with a sleeping baby in it. At a 9:30 at night movie. This baby did not sleep the whole movie and wasn't afraid to let his displeasure at his parents' poor parenting known to the whole movie theater. This baby cried and cried and cried, and I hated my movie going experience. But that movie had a higher comic book accuracy rating and a super good action movie rating. A super good, if you take all the information out, all the, you just look at it as an action movie or a sci-fi movie or whatever you wanted to categorize that at, take all the Black Panther stuff out, it's still a great movie. So that those two categories would have been higher when my overall movie going experience would have been lower. But with that movie, that same movie, I went with 10 of my good friends who we then went out to dinner afterwards, and we talked. We had a 2-hour long discussion at a Denny's about comic book Afrofuturism and the importance of representation of characters in movies. And so that part of it, if you consider that part of the movie going experience, bumped that back up. It's everything here is so subjective to your going to see the movie that unless we can clearly define our data points, unless we can clearly define this is what I'm counting, this is what I'm counting, and this is what I'm counting, and this is why I'm giving these scores, then none of our grading is ever going to truly be representative. So I talk to Dan all the time about, I thought it was okay. It wasn't great, wasn't bad. Especially with these movies, right? I don't really like it. Because for me, it's the second two categories that matter. For me, the going to the movies experience is always going to be good. I don't care if I'm seeing Birdpocalypse, or if I'm seeing Gone with the Wind, or if I'm seeing Black Panther, or if I'm seeing Shazam. Doesn't matter. My going to the movies experience is always going to be a good time because I love going to a movie theater. I like the smells. I like the seats. I like the weird cup holders that don't actually fit your cup. That stuff is enjoyable to me. So that's always going to be a higher grade. But for me, the accuracy of the movie, when I go see iRobot, I want it to be an adaptation of the book, not necessarily a new telling of the book. When I go to see Black Panther, I want to see a Black Panther book adapted on screen, not necessarily something else. So that category is going to be high for me. And then if I have to put aside everything I know, how did this movie do? How was the script? How was the cinematic storytelling? So I need to be able to explain those things to people in order for them to make sense. So that was my goal. All right, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back. And for the last 15 minutes of the show, I'm going to vamp, I guess. No, I'm kidding. We can either get into some of the nitty gritty on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, even though I may be doing that with Dan tomorrow. I don't know. Or we can talk about some other things that are coming up, especially things that I will probably be talking about next Monday night on the show. So why don't we go ahead and take a break? If you would, while you're on our break, make sure you've hit like and subscribe everywhere. Make sure you've given us a thumbs up, hit the hearts, hit the smiley faces, all of those things. Help us work the algorithms here on The Experience so that we can get more people watching, more subscribers, which we're going to continue to promote and do things as this channel grows. So please, please, please do the things, like, comment, subscribe, help us get out there, help us reach a higher audience. We'll be right back after these words from me, I think. Did you know that every Experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out. Twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
You just finished the last episode of your favorite new show, and you just have to talk about it. But all your friends are ghosting you because of that incident last week at the buffet. Oh, you know the one. What you did to that chowder. Ugh, keeps me up at night. So what do? Join writer Dan Wickline as he breaks down all your favorite pop culture media. Whether it's a review of the latest nerdy TV show or a dive back into the history of your favorite comic characters, Dan's ready to discuss all the hottest topics live. Join the conversation as Dan live streams Tuesday through Thursday at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. The Dan Wickline Show on The Experience, comic culture and sales. What's up, the internet? Welcome back in. I am still producer Kyle. If that ever changes, would somebody let me know? Just throwing it out there. I want to remind you guys, tomorrow at 5, we have the Dan Wickline Show. Dan is going to be talking about Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. I don't know if I'm going to be on with him or not. He probably doesn't want me arguing with him again. Or maybe he does. We'll find out tomorrow. And then after that, Jay, Dan, and I, if I can get the books read, will be here for In Stores this week, where we talk about new comics that are in stores this week. Following that is Jenna and the gang from Space Cadets with Minute to Skim It. And then we have Mint Hunter Comics and Country Roads Comics
going late into the evening tomorrow. We're gonna real quick. I'm gonna hit Backwoods Collector's comment here, and then I want to talk to you guys about something that's happening later this week in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So Backwoods Collector says, I'm not at all a DC or Marvel guy, so I'd maybe have a completely different opinion of all these books interpreted into movies, not having any clue about the book storylines. Right. That's what I'm saying. So you may not measure comic book accuracy, right? It's and I've said this. I definitely graded characters like Shazam less harshly because I have less knowledge of the character. I know less about who Shazam is, so my grading of that character is lower. Is that the right thing to do or not? I couldn't tell you. But it's definitely how I approached it. So it's something to think about, right? You have to make these grades based on your own sort of scorekeeping. But I will say this: we all saw the Spawn movie. Anyway, so guys, starting on Thursday, over in the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Is there anybody here from Pittsburgh or the Pennsylvania area? Western Pennsylvania? We will be a large group of comic book retailers will be descending on the greater Pennsylvania or greater Pittsburgh area for Comics Pro 2020. If you don't know what Comics Pro is, that's fair. I'm going to tell you, but you should definitely find out about Comics Pro. It is, I call them the comic book trade organization. But basically what they are is it's a group you can join as a comic book retailer where we all speak with one voice. It is the comic book professionals, comic book professionals, comic book professional retailers organization, something like that. Anyway, so it's all of the comic book retailers can come together and we get to talk to other retailers about their practices in their stores. We get to talk to publishers directly about this is what we're actually seeing. I know this is what your data says, but this is what we're seeing in our stores. And here's why those two things are the same and different at the same time. It is the most productive conversation back and forth between the people who make your comics and the people who sell your comics. Movies are never as good as a book, but that's due to you imagining the visuals during the book reading. But I think comics take that aspect away due to the visuals. Just my opinion. It's true, Backwoods. You're not wrong. I don't have the same problems with movies that are adapted from novels as I do from comic books. But I will say this: if you're going to make a movie based on source material that wasn't intended to be a movie, or source material that wasn't intended to be a TV show, you need to have some sense of accuracy and some sense of loyalty to that original IP and that original story. Otherwise, you're doing a disservice to the original creators and to the story as a whole. There's a reason we're making a movie out of this story, not because it wasn't good enough. Because it was a good enough story that people were like, we should make a movie of this, and now you're making a movie of it. So just tell the story. Okay, back to Comics Pro. So for 3 days, we'll have meetings with publishers, with other retailers, with people in the business, talking about the business. This is, in a big way, it is a chance for comic book professionals to come together and say, this is what I'm going through. This is what it's like for me. Who else is going through this and how can we work through it together? And while this is not a thing that's necessarily available to the general public, some of the things that come out of it will be, and we'll be covering them here on the experience. There will be announcements from publishers of future projects and things that they're expecting. There will be announcements from independent creators of things that they're working on. There will be announcements from distributors about things they're working on. We'll find out about things that are in production or have been optioned for movies. We're going to find out all of this information, but we're going to be able to very specifically frame it in a way that will be informational to those of us who sell you comics. So it's important to know that this is coming. Watch the news sites for news out of Comics Pro. Stay tuned to the experience. We will definitely be covering Comics Pro, as a number of our people will be there. We've covered it the last 2 years, but it's been virtual. This is the first time it's back in person. It's actually hybrid this year for the first time since before the pandemic, so that's exciting. And yeah, it's just something to be watching for. There may be some big announcements from some companies. And again, it's not going to be big announcements like you get at San Diego Comic-Con, where it's, we're going to announce this next movie over here, which is great. But what does that mean about your publishing schedule? This is going to be very specifically comic book oriented. So that will be super fun and interesting. And so you should be watching for that. And if your retailer says, hey, this is something I heard at Comics Pro or I learned at Comics Pro, just remember that they're trying to make their store better. Trying to make things easier for you and easier on them in a remarkably tough market. So I'm guessing next Monday we'll be talking about what I learned at Comics Pro and what has me fired up in the comic book industry that I learned at Comics Pro. Until then, I want to thank you guys for coming to watch the show. Backwoods Collector. I don't know why I keep calling you Backwards. Backwoods Collector. Kenneth, Jay, Sean, everybody who's been in here. Just as a reminder, new show starting Wednesday at 8. 3T with Chuck Pino and his wife Wendy. Following that is 360 Comics, another new show here on the Experience. Guys, we are adding new content all the time, new shows all the time, doing new things. If you haven't already clicked like and subscribe, make sure you do. Make sure you click the bell and get the notification. And then finally, tune into everything. You're backwards a lot of the time. I appreciate that. So am I. I just don't know why my brain does that, but we'll figure it out. But make sure you're watching the content, guys. If you see us live, click in, just say hi, hit the like button. It's hugely helpful, even if you can't stay. It's been a really great night talking to you guys. Let me know what your ratings are for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania out of your 15-point scale, if you can. And we will see you very, 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 very soon here on the Experience. Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the Experience is all the time.